dedicated to Late Shri Tulsi Tanti, the wind man of India, the champion of the earth, the driving force behind India's wind energy revolution, who led nation's green future with passion and innovation. We present you this short film.
Nature mourns for one of its greatest champions, Tulsi Tanti, the wind man of India. The world called him hero of the environment, champion of the earth. In 1995, a time when little was known about wind energy in India, Tulsi Tanti almost single-handedly went about building the wind energy sector ground up across the country. He spoke about how people dissuaded him initially.
I remember whenever we spoke to the different people about our idea of harnessing wind energy, they suggested us to dream within limits. Clearly, we didn't take their suggestions, and today we have transformed the way people look at environment, energy, and power.
Even before the phrase was coined, he believed in Atmanirbharta, or self-reliance. Countries like India that would not just manufacture wind turbines, but also provide end-to-end solutions for customers. From R&D and manufacturing to operations and maintenance, Tulsi Tanti succeeded in putting India on the world renewable energy map, setting up India-made turbines across developed and developing countries. Suzlon became the only player from the developing world to be ranked among the top 5 in the world in this sector. The rise of a wind energy company from a developing country to become a flag bearer for the industry across the world has led to prestigious case studies being written. Tulsi Tanti won many accolades and awards for his stellar role in literally creating winds of change in the energy sector. While being lauded across the world, Tulsi Tanti also reached out to remote Indian villages, changing their lives forever. In nearly 3 decades since Suzlon Energy came into being, renewable energy has impacted the lives of millions in India. One man made it possible. One man who believed that nothing was impossible if you contributed your whole life to it. One man who believed that the long journey, the hard-won battles were all worthwhile if you could create a sustainable future for the generations to come. His legacy lives on in the 20-gigawatt wind installations that generate green energy every day across 17 countries on 6 continents. Tulsi Tanti, the wind man, the face of India's green energy revolution, the inspiration, the mentor, the father of renewable energy in India.
So this, ladies and gentlemen, is a story of one man who continues to inspire us to build a greener tomorrow. And in fact, lending also voice to what Shri Lalit Bohra had mentioned, a man who was bold, who was decisive, who was enthusiastic, and who was different. So taking these inspirations forward, I now request our first speaker, Mr. J.P. Chalasani, the Group CEO of Suzlon Group, to kindly address the congregation.
Thank you. Good afternoon to each one of you. Last few days, I've been regularly speaking to my colleague Dharani about this session. I've been consistently telling her that I have so much to speak about him, but don't want to become emotional. I never knew that you're going to show this video. Okay. So whenever we see him, you start becoming emotional. Anyway, I'll try my best to be out of it quickly. When I speak, I will use TRT, Tulsi, by, there are only 2 things which I know him, so therefore means Mr. Tulsi Tanti. And also I will be using him and Suzlon synonymous to each other. Like it's extremely difficult for me to differentiate between he did this versus Suzlon did this. I always used to think that what is Mr. Tulsi Tanti? Okay. Whenever I speak to most people, the answer is that when I say that, what does it strike you when you say Tulsi Tanti? Invariably, most people respond to me is that what strikes them first is wind energy. Okay. I think he's in India is synonymous with wind. That's what we talked about, wind. And fine, so what next? So they say his humbleness and down-to-earth attitude. Okay. The third is where comes that, he founded Suzlon along with his brothers. One of them happens to be here, not his son, his brother. I'm just trying to correct you. Okay. So that's what he is. He is synonymous with wind in India. He is a person, everybody touched remembers him as a very humble, down-to-earth person. And he happens to contribute to the wind sector in India and globally through Suzlon. Even when I met him first time, sometime in 2005 or 6, that time I was in Reliance Power, we were trying to do first wind project for us. We never knew, at least I never knew about wind till then except attending few conferences. He came and met. And those days, he was the salesperson for Suzlon. First meeting I had, he never talked about Suzlon. He only told me that why is it important for utilities to get into the wind sector. He said till now the wind sector is growing through high net worth individuals, growing through the companies which want depreciation. But if the wind has to grow in India, it's important for utilities to get into wind sector in a big way. Even there he was talking about the wind sector rather than trying to sell me Suzlon. It is much later, 2-3 meetings later, he started talking about proposal, what Suzlon can do for us. But at core of his heart, each one of us who have interacted with him know him that he is not representing Suzlon, he had always represented wind sector. Lalit, some of the things which we talked, I'm sure that his journey, you will know that the topics which we have been talking since morning and some of the challenges we've been talking is how this man visualized a long back and how in his own way resolved many of those issues. I'm going to use this. Yeah. Look at the wind potential. I understand, of course, I didn't know much about wind at that point of time. Way back, the wind potential was available through few wind masts set up by CWE at that time, now it's NIWE. And these wind masts were at about, let's say, 20-meter height and 1 or 2 wind masts for the entire area. So, and data got published by government. And when he wanted to do this and he wanted to do it professionally, he wanted to do microsighting. And he approached a global consultant to help him with microsighting. He said this data is not sufficient. So, you really can't exactly do the microsighting. After a few struggles, after a few things, he realized that it's necessary for him, for the private sector to complement the Government of India's efforts in terms of identifying what is the wind potential available. Way back in 2000, almost 25 years back, March 2000 is one where he got the first wind mast of 60 meters height got installed in Maharashtra, and rest is history. So we are now done about more than 1,200 masts and then more than 200 operational today. But not that just, we are all talking about offshore today. In 2013 and 14, he applied to Government of India for wind data potential to check the wind potential in Gujarat coast and Tamil Nadu coast in 2012 and 13. Okay. Obviously, the permissions for that took 5 years. In 2018, first company to go ahead actually capture the data on Gujarat coast. That point of time. So he had, when nobody was talking about offshore in India, he visualized that this is the one which we need to get into and started talking about offshore in 2012-13. So that's a vision what he had for the country. He was the first person from India who got awarded the Champion of the Earth by UN in 2009. Anyway, that's there. But the talking about moving to the next part of his journey is not just the wind potential. Now we need to convert wind potential into generation, into electrons. So that's where he thought that the wind is a different game altogether, and technology has got to be specific to a country, specific to a particular wind regimes, specific to the climatic conditions of that country. And he always believed that technology is going to be the driver for wind energy. Okay? And he didn't want to buy the technology. He didn't want to give the driving seat to someone else. He said that we need to drive ourselves in case we want to play a bigger role. So therefore, he said that let me create an R&D center. What you're talking, Lalit, some time back, obviously the brain power didn't exist in India at that point of time. Okay? He thought the best brain power is available in Europe. He said, okay, let me go and set up the only Indian OEM to have in-house R&D center set up in Europe. And then, as you said, he said that, okay, fine, I have the core here, but I got to expand my capacity to India. So expanded that R&D and technology centers to Pune, Bangalore, and Chennai. Okay. Today we have one of the largest R&D, and the only Indian OEM we can probably say is that we have a in-house R&D. What it does is, we design, my colleague Bernard is here, who is our Chief Technology Officer, we design turbines specific to Indian conditions. He always said that our focus needs to be India, we need to meet Indian requirements. That's one reason in the recent uphill what we had about morning, Additional Secretary was talking about temperature, connectivity, we never had any issue. We always had easy access because the turbines were designed for this. He always believed that technology is important, technology is specific to a country, and we as the largest OEM in this country need to create technology for India. He shared this award with two other people. One was Nobel laureate Al Gore, and second was that time Soviet Union President Mikhail Gorbachev. So those are people with whom he shared this award. We're talking about tariffs today. Girish Bhai talked about tariffs today. He is one person who understood Indian power sector. He said that the market is determined by tariffs. If you have a low tariff, there is an unlimited demand. If the tariff is high, demand vanishes in thin air. So therefore, his focus always been that, keeping on driving us an LCOE, levelized cost of energy. He drove our technology people to madness almost, saying that get me a product which would give me the lowest cost. And he also said to the supply chain, let's work with component suppliers in terms of reducing cost of input. And then he believed that these two combined with the best sites is what give us the LCOE. He always believed, and which is very important. With all my experience of 45 years in power sector, I can say that Indian demand is completely function of tariffs. If the tariffs go up, demand vanishes completely into thin air. We can actually go for load shedding rather than actually supplying the power because of commercial viability of sectors. But at the same time, he believed that unviable tariffs are also detrimental and sector won't grow. In 2017, when we had competitive bidding coming in with reverse auction, at that time projects availability were very low, and reverse auction never works efficiently when the supply is limited. Whenever the supply is limited, reverse auction actually gets into gambling because someone want to get a project. So that's what happened in the initial stages, and where tariffs went down as low as 245. He was really a worried man. He told me that, JPC sir, these projects won't see light of the day. And it was true, 50% of those initial set of projects never saw the light of the day. So he said that we need to work towards getting this reverse auction removed. And I said, impossible. No bureaucrat ever will agree for removing the reverse auction because the tariffs goes up, who will answer? Okay. So he said, no, I need to work. He worked relentlessly for 2 years, more than 2 years, to get this reverse auction removed. And that happened post his demise. Reverse auction for wind was removed. It's a different issue, it came back later, but it doesn't make any impact now because, as I said, number of opportunities available today are much more, so reverse auction is not going to have an impact. But what I'm trying to say is that he is the gentleman who said that tariffs are important. Today, whenever we talk about FDRE, we say that load following bids are at sub 5, 490, 495. We all know we can replace fossil fuel. If that's $6, no, you can't do it. So therefore, he had that sector visualization and he had that feeling that if you need to save the sector, the tariffs have to improve. One side, tariffs have to be down for having the demand. Second side is the tariffs have to be reasonable if the projects have to happen. We talked about constraints in development of wind. Okay. Today we face a huge set of issues in terms of connectivity, or the land, or the PPA, various issues. After doing 500 gigawatts in FY17, we've been struggling between 1.5 to 3.2 gigawatts. And we might reach FY17 level maybe in FY26, if not this year. He believed that wind is a different animal altogether. If you need to do a quick capacity addition, obviously you need to invest in advanced development. He built a model. Model was you acquire the land, you acquire the connectivity, if possible get the PPA, then go and sell the project to the investor. That is the reason those days the project used to happen very quickly. In FY17, sir, when 5.5 gigawatts done, we ourselves did 18 gigawatts. One single state of AP, we did 1,000 gigawatts in that year. The gentleman who did this sitting here, Dr. Rao. All this because Mr. Ravi is here, these instrumental people, because those days, because it's STU connected, the land was being available for the OEMs, you had the connectivity, and PPAs were getting signed with the states. So therefore, we were able to add. In fact, I remember there was a project we had taken from Torrent in November of this year, commissioned in March the same year, financial year. But now it's a completely different situation. We have a CTU connectivity, we have a competitive bidding. It's a vicious circle. So do you have a PPA to get the land? If you have a land, do you have a connectivity? So how do we resolve this issue? The morning you were talking about, people need to come up with suggestions, which is what we've been saying always, is that we need to get back into that concept of advanced development. That can only happen that when we have concepts like wind parks or various other concepts, we have to get into the situation where we have the land in advance, connectivity in advance, then we can go ahead and develop wind much quicker. Today, the CTUs get announced, but connectivity agnostic of wind or solar. Everything is taken away by solar, where wind potential is available. Wind is available, as we're talking today morning, only few areas. Rajasthan capacity is announced, but 90% of the capacity is taken by solar. So that entire wind capacity gets stranded. So these are the things which he thought that point of time, but this system helped that point of time because it was STU connected, land was available to take in by OEMs, so therefore we were able to do that. Because of those constraints, what I explained some time back, he also believed that if you need to do a large capacity addition in the wind, you can't get one state to contribute. Unfortunately, with the competitive bidding, because we have a state agnostic, whatever the bids have happened, everybody started going to the states where there is a high wind potential. Initially, we had Gujarat and Tamil Nadu. Now, all projects got concentrated in Karnataka. So therefore, you see the projects getting delayed, people fighting for land, people fighting for people. So he felt that, it's not the way. It has to be all 8 windy states need to develop. So he canvassed with MNRE for saying that can we have a substation-wise bidding. And I see Mr. Chintan Shah here that I used to work with him, working closely with the government, saying that can we have the substation-wise bidding? Or he said that state-specific bidding. Again, this is the second point after the reverse auction. He went on pursuing for 2.5 to 3 years. Again, this happened, the post his demise. We came up with the concept of state-specific bidding with pool tariff because some states will have higher tariff, some states will have lower tariff because of wind speeds. Concept came in, now state-specific bidding again put on a hold, and the pool tariff has not yet got implemented. I think these are the things which are required, sir. If you look at all 8 cylinders need to fire, or all 8 states need to fire if you want to reach those 10 gigawatts. It's impossible for us to do like one Karnataka or one Rajasthan able to give us those 10 gigawatts. Unless we do this, very clear that our targets will remain our dream. Atmanirbhar Bharat. This is again like offshore, something which we've been talking for the last maybe a decade or so, but he is the one who said, we thought Atmanirbhar is the most important for this country. The self-reliance in manufacturing is most important. And many of you here, many of the component suppliers here know that, how we worked with each one of you to see that you set up here, and we always encourage the people saying that you set up, don't worry about demand, we will create demand. I just want to give one example of this is, I'm sure Murali and Deepak are here, on how we brought GWEC here. The story is that I remember the morning also I was talking to Girish Bhai, is that those days he told me, sir, the global wind capacity has to grow. The biggest constraint is availability of gearbox. He said, unless we create more capacity of gearbox, the capacity addition globally will get constrained. So what he did, he went and acquired Hansen, one of the largest, the manufacturing company. He doubled that capacity. It is not for Suzlon. That point of time, actually, the Hansen was supplying the most of its capacity. It didn't supply a single gearbox to Suzlon. It was supplying to all our competition. But he looked at saying that unless you increase gearbox capacity globally, wind capacity will get limited. And then what he did, then he convinced them to come to India, which you see now in GWEC in Coimbatore, which is his insistence or his motivation made them to come here and grow. So therefore, there is a video which, with the permission of GWEC, their video, I just wanted to play here. Can we play this?
Investment is for the 50 years or 100 years, and it's required such a country where we can able to grow and expand faster and remain competitive in a marketplace. So my plan was to build a large capacity in India. We are successful today, we are celebrating. So it shows that we have done the right decision at that time. Your contribution has built this organization, is the best the gearbox manufacturing company in the world, and within ZF also this is the best plant. But friends, it's not enough. The Coimbatore plant, Jan Willem, I don't like just 4 gigawatt. Within a 3 to 4 years, we would like to see at least 10 gigawatt. As a customer, we will support you. So you produce, we will take this delivery, so that you should not worry about your the sales, but just you put more and more capital here and give the opportunity.
That's a tree which was planted and what has grown now. Sir, this is just one example. He just didn't do it for GWEC. And there are many component suppliers here. They know that he partnered with them and he said that let's grow. Like morning, Girish Bhai was talking about when he was talking about MSME, because he seen how Mr. Tulsi Tanti struggled to get those people come up. So he worked with a number of people, tower suppliers. He said, don't worry, please invest. We will offtake the capacity. He encouraged many people to invest and then increase. Today we talk about self-reliance in terms of component supply. Not because I'm the group CEO of Suzlon, but as the sector person, I give him lots of credit for where we are today. The last one in his thing, which is the most important in my opinion, my working with him was people, his people skills. I've seen quite a few visionaries in my life, at least 3 of them I can quote. Dr. D.V. Kapoor was the first chairman of NTPC. Then I've seen Dhirubhai Ambani and I've seen Mr. Tulsi Tanti. These visionaries somehow have people skills. How to identify a talent, how to get them, how to nurture them is one of his skills. And today, whichever company you go, sir, like NTPC used to be the fertile ground for private IPPs, that point of time in the fossil fuel. Today, Suzlon is a fertile ground for people to every IPP and every other company. So he created the talent pool. But second most important for him in the people skills is the relationship. Okay? Every single person he came in touch with, that relationship, that impression remained for the rest of their life. And his relationship, it may not be with a CEO, or it would be the same with a technician on the shop floor, or it would be same with the person who served his tea, or a government, or a competition everywhere. His relationships is what actually, made him what he is. I learned a lot from him on the people relationships wise more than anything else. I think this is what is TRT in my opinion. This is what why we call him as Windman of India. His contribution for where we are and for thinking many of the things. In fact, many times I think that we need to go back and refresh our memory about his vision 15 years back, because the problems what we had at that point of time and the solutions what he gave that time, like whether it's advanced development activities or the multi-state doing simultaneously, is what need of the hour today. Okay. So I think that's what I just wanted to share. I personally, for me, is he was not just my boss, he was not just my mentor, he was a close friend and someone like you call it soulmate is something I learned. I joined him almost after about 37, 38 years of experience in power sector. I thought that I know I'm a leader, I've established myself, but coming in touch with him, then I felt that there's so much more to learn in life, and these are the people who teach you so much, and by teaching, they make people to deliver their agenda. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir, for taking us through the journey of this inspiring personality, a true patriot, a people's person, a futuristic man who with his very strong conviction and belief and never say die attitude and dil mange more attitude drove the winds of change in this country against the tides. Thank you for once again sharing with us the vision and mission of Shri Tulsi Tanti ji. Thank you. And now I invite our next speaker, Mr. Stewart Mullin, the CIO of Global Wind Energy Council.
Thank you for that. And what a truly inspirational story. And to see all the work that Tulsi Tanti has done, and also the legacy in which one man can create and others can follow as part of this industry. It's really humbling. So first of all, good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and it's a true honour to be invited to Windergy 2024, and particularly to be invited to speak as part of this session. I'd like to thank the IWTMA for extending the invitation for GWEC to become a knowledge partner for this event. GWEC partners with associations all around the globe, and it's really important for us. These association partners are really important for us. The associations are the backbone of our industry, and these partnerships actually drive the industry forward. To have strong and well-supported local associations is a key to industry success. And it's great to look out into the crowd and see support for the industry. I should also mention that over the past couple of months, GWEC has been in Hamburg, talking about being a knowledge partner for the European industry. Last week we were in China, representing the China Wind Power, being a knowledge partner there. And today our CEO also is in Brazil. He's being a knowledge partner for Brazil, so it's my honour to be the knowledge partner for the Indian market. My name's Stewart Mullin, and I'm the Chief Industry Officer at the Global Wind Energy Council. And I'm a bit ashamed to admit this, but it's not only my first time to Chennai and wind energy, but it's also my first time to India. And wow, what a first impression this country makes. What an amazing country and what an amazing group of people. Although I am a little bit disappointed, the Australian in me is a little bit disappointed that no one's mentioned cricket yet. But I guess that comes when people get to know you. I've been in the industry for almost 20 years now, but coming here into this room and into this industry here in India, I actually feel a bit like a newbie again. There's so much wisdom and experience in the Indian market, and it's great to be able to share stories that date back 20, 30, 40 years of wind with people in this room. And it's great to see so many people that have that history and passion that has been driving this industry forward for the last 40 years. And I guess that shouldn't surprise me when you look at the rich history that the Indian wind industry has built over the last 4 decades. And of course, the main reason, this session is about remembering the great Tulsi Tanti, the wind man of India. And if you want an example of a man that made a difference to India and the world, Tulsi is a great role model. And it's fantastic to see the work continuing with Girish, JP, and all of the Suzlon team as well. It's really impressive. And seriously, folks, how many of us would love to be able to walk away at the end of our careers with the title Champion of the Earth attached to our names? This is pretty amazing stuff. And for those of you that don't know much about the Global Wind Energy Council, we've been working side by side with industry since 2005 to open up new markets. And we'll celebrate our 20th anniversary next year. In our early days, we were also led by a very well-known and prominent man, a guy called Steve Sawyer. Steve was a passionate environmentalist and a wind campaigner. He was actually on board the Rainbow Warrior. He came from Greenpeace. He was on board the Rainbow Warrior, actually, when it was attacked in New Zealand many years ago. And we had the benefit of his wisdom and passion for 10 to 15 years. And he spent a lot of time going around the world, working with people on the ground to really make sure that wind had its place in the energy mix of the world. And like all of us, he believed in the technology's potential to change the course of the world and to move us back from the brink of a climate catastrophe. And so Tulsi and Steve were similar in a lot of ways. Both men lived up to that classic definition of society, where the purpose of one's life should be to plant a seed for a tree of which the shade you'll never sit under yourself. In other words, leave the world in a better place than which you found it. Both men worked tirelessly to create a strong wind industry, and both men were beacons for others to follow, and both men's organisations are continuing to drive the industry forward and under a determined, committed leadership. As JP mentioned, and as Girish mentioned in his speech, we need to keep fighting the fight that our forefathers begun. We need to turn ambition into action and to turn targets into turbines. At COP28 in Dubai last year, there was a lot of self-congratulations from all nations for finally getting the commitment to triple up the renewable energy capacity of the world. And that's fantastic. And don't get me wrong, it's a huge win for the wind industry to get this commitment. But it only gets us to the starting line. The heavy lift is still ahead of us. GWEC's Global Wind Report in 2023 showed that 2023 was actually the second best year on record for wind. The best year was 2021. We had a dip in 2022. And of course, these great years and dips and great years and dips and great years and dips, it's great when we have a great year, but the dip not so much. And we need to make sure that we keep growing the industry so we can actually smooth out these booms and busts in the supply chain. But we still need to do more. If we continue on our current deployment trajectory that we have today, we'll fall well short of the climate goals and only reach a doubling of our capacity today. So the challenges ahead of us, and they always are, and this is what makes the hero's journey even more rewarding. And I think, as was mentioned before, of course, with every challenge comes opportunity. And so when we talk about challenges in the supply chain, which I'll touch on in a second, there is also tremendous opportunity there. So the wind industry is experiencing volatile policy and market demand, which has led to an underinvestment in the global wind supply chain. Policy environments are not fit for purpose in many markets to incentivise the deployment of wind to the 1.5 degrees Celsius, which we need to avoid. And there are things like stop-start government ambitions in many countries and stop-start auction schedules. There's bottlenecks in permitting and land availability and grid build-out. I'm glad to see that India is actually tackling many of these challenges, and from what I've read in the MEC Plus report that's about to be released, there's significant things happening here in India that could actually be a beacon for the rest of the world to follow. And of course, there's challenges around repowering, something which should be relatively simple given that we've already had turbines in the ground and we've done all the hard work. We just need to actually make sure that we can actually continue to repower and make the most use of these efficient sites. The leading wind production hubs are in India, China, Europe, and the US and Brazil, where policymakers are increasingly focused on resilience of the energy industries, in addition to securing energy flow. But the industry actors are hesitant to scale up production capacity due to the uncertain market growth. Inflationary impacts have hit the price of commodities, labour and logistics, combined with rising costs of capital. This is also impacting on the investment case for wind and wind energy projects and the supply chain. There's also been a rapid innovation curse that has impacted industry. This is where the race for ever larger turbines has shortened the product development cycle, leading to an inability for OEMs to recuperate their R&D spend, and in addition to hampering the wider supply chain's ability to achieve economies of scale. These factors have fueled a race to the bottom approach to costs, combined with a race to the top thinking on turbine size, leading to a growing technical risk and a low level of serial production. GWEC market intelligence also shows that there is a risk of manufacturing bottlenecks from the middle of this decade onwards for multiple key components in the wind value chain. In particular, gearbox, generators, blade, and offshore wind casting, towers and foundation. There's ports and vessel challenges, and particularly with vessels around sufficiently large crane capacity in order to scale up the offshore wind sector. Even in onshore wind, larger turbine sizes are causing whiplash effects throughout the entire supply chain, as new dimensions require a rethink of how we actually do things and put new challenges ahead of us as an industry. Mining for metals and critical minerals such as iron, zinc, copper is heavily centralised in a handful of countries. The refining of critical rare earth minerals for wind turbine permanent magnets is handled almost exclusively by China. The natural resources and refining capacity of these materials are plentiful, but their heavy centralisation makes restrictions of trade a major risk for the global community. While the concentration risk for wind is not as high as solar in PV, the concentration of component manufacturing is a significant concern due to historical tendencies in Europe and to an even higher extent the US to outsource gearbox, converters and generators in manufacturing. For resilient wind scaling, we need to see efforts to ensure local supplies of these components. In fact, if we look around the globe, we see Europe must at least double its existing capacity by 2030, while the US needs to establish local industries to scratch to meet this demand. GWEC's supply chain report that we did and released at COP last year with the Boston Consulting Group shows that nacelle assembly capacity will be insufficient in all regions except China and, of course, India. With the thin margins currently experienced in the industry, deterring the necessary capacity expansions. The underlying challenges threatening the profitability of first-line suppliers must be addressed to ensure capacity, especially for offshore wind. And as JP and Girish both pointed out, India is in a prime position to be a true driver of the global wind market. Not only here in India, through the region and around the world. With more than enough capacity to service a domestic market, India can continue to focus on exporting its additional capacity. And when you look out into the audience and you see the looks of determinations and you hear what is possible to be done by one person in this industry, It's great to see that the people in this room are actually the people getting stuff done on the ground. This is the room. We are the people that need to do this. We can't kick the can down the road and push this challenge to others. Each and every one of us has a responsibility here. We're the ones that need to act. We're the ones that have to push through the adversity, to work smarter, embrace innovation that can drive the industry forward. We also need more people to join us, many more people. We need to do this in a just and equitable way. We need to include the Global South. We need to ensure that the industry is attractive to young and ambitious people who want to change the world. We need to inspire the next generation like those of the previous generations have inspired us. We need the next Steve Sawyer and the next Tulsi Tanti. And I'm sure we can rise to the challenge. And I look forward to continuing to work with all of you. In fact, I would like to extend an invitation for those of you that are participating at the APAC Summit in Incheon in November this year. GWEC will be having a session on India, in particular on the onshore challenges around India and India's role in the APAC region. And so we would like you all to be part of those discussions as well. Once again, in conclusion, I'd like to thank the IWTMA for the invitation to address all of you today, and thank you for your time. I hope we can continue to fight the good fight together. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your address. While complementing India's initiatives, also sharing the global perspective and inspiring everyone to be agents of change for building a better world and this beautiful planet of ours, keeping it the way it is for ourselves and for our future generations. Thank you. And inviting now Shri Lalit Bohra, Joint Secretary MNRE, once again inviting him to address this August gathering.
Thank you. And good afternoon, everyone. I will not bore you because I already said what I have supposed to say. But when it comes to the memorial on Tulsi Bhai, then one just cannot resist speaking. Although I have joined this wind sector a year back only, but since I have joined and I have been visiting, the way he has created the infrastructure, and to my utter surprise, the infrastructure in the private sector is really surprising, that someone in the industry has thought and decided to put the capital into those areas which normally the industry comes to the government and asks that you should do this, you should do this, but he was the one who did it. The blade testing factory, when I visited in Baroda, I was told that when it was made, it was the only blade testing facilities in the Asia. So imagine that the first testing facility being developed by a private sector is something which is unheard of. Almost all the first testing facilities are always being made by the government because you don't see a rate of return in them. But he has a vision. And it's one thing. I keep on meeting so many people who are working in the wind because, you see, I'm not a wind expert. I don't know anything. The only thing I know is that the common sense, and we listen to the people and we try to see that how sitting in the government we can facilitate them for the growth of the country. I think every other man in the industry is one way or the other somehow has been connected with Tulsi Bhai. And why? Because as I was talking in the morning, he created the people. He created that manpower, and that manpower is right now going to various sectors and doing that activities. And I personally feel, we can see all big industrialists sitting here. The real tribute to Tulsi Bhai will be when we have so many Tulsi Bhai working in the different sectors and seeing that how the next to next generation can take this sector forward. Because renewable story is just a beginning. It's not the end, it's neither a teenage state, it is just a beginning. We just completed 200 gigawatt, we have to complete 500 by 2030. Come 2047, the target will be somewhere 1500 gigawatt or maybe 2000 gigawatt, we don't know. Then by 2070, it's energy transition. And it's not happening in India. This is what is about the Indian market. But it's the energy transition, and the reason for energy transition is the climate change, and the climate doesn't have the boundaries. So climate change is an issue which is a world over. And the work has been done in few developed countries, India, China, and part of Asia. But there's a lot more. We have an entire global south, we have the African country. It's a big market. And who is going to take that market? If the Indian industries can have so many people who works on the footprints of the Tulsi Bhai and create the organizations, create the manpower, then I'm pretty sure that India will be able to and venture into those areas and fulfill the requirement of the world for the climate change. When we started working on the offshore wind, and I'm happy to say that the government of India has approved, the Honorable Prime Minister, the first cabinet meeting after the new government, they approved the VGF for the offshore wind that clearly reflects the priorities of the government. And within 2 to 3 months, we floated the bid. Bid is already in the market. I request all the industries across the globe to go through those bids. We are expecting the pre-bid meetings in the next month. You give your suggestions. And that is a bid where we are giving an assured offtake. The initial EIA studies have been done by the government. The data will be provided by the NIWEs. NIWE, National Institute of Wind Energy, will facilitate in getting all the clearances. Ministry sitting in Delhi will always be there to clear all the doubt. The transmission will be provided by the power grid. So everything is set. We want the industry to come. And this was something when, like, I was interacting with few people coming from Suzlon on the offshore wind, and they said that, sir, we started doing this long back in Gujarat coast, and I was shocked. I was thinking that yes, we are doing something, and he said that no, sir, we started doing this, we did the study, we have the data. So that is something which is a vision, and now that vision is there in the market. We have a bid. We have bid for 4,000 megawatt of seabed leasing, where the offtake is market based, and that is also like seabed will be given on the lease, and the industry will have to do the study, do their due diligence, and finally established. Because the topic of this Windergy is the energy transition, and if we have to go for the energy transition, then according to me there are two elements which are going to be very crucial for the energy transition. One is the offshore wind and other is the storage. If we do not have these two animals in our room, then energy transition is going to be difficult. So offshore wind was thought long back, now it has become a reality, and I feel that initially we have said that we have given a trajectory of about 37 gigawatt, but beyond 2030, that will be the market which we have to look forward to. And that market is a huge market. Stewart had said that the supply chain is big issue in the wind industry. And when it comes to offshore, it's more critical because offshore has a lot of element. It has a big part where you have to erect the monopiles, then the erection of the wind turbine, and the O&M is again a big challenge. It's not like what we do on the land. And who will do this? Who will provide those services to the world where the offshore wind is picking up? Everybody is looking to India, and I'm really glad that a lot of people are showing interest in making their shipbuildings, how they can go into the installations work. The O&M is going to be a big issue. The turbines industry will also get a big market for that. And that is the area where if we enter now, it's all probability that we will become a viable option for the entire world for the offshore wind. Because for energy transition, the offshore wind will be one of the very important solution. Repowering is again one area where the future lies, and a lot of work has to be done in that area. So there were 3 issues which Tulsi Bhai thought of: the offshore wind, the repowering, and then he said that if India has to go for renewable, it cannot be without the wind. And what is now happening? You see, we used to do the vanilla bids, we used to do the solar bid, we used to do the RTC. And the moment we came out with a product of FDRE, the firm and dispatchable renewable, and suddenly the market dynamics changed. And in an FDRE of say 100 megawatt, you will see that the solar is about 120, wind is about 160, then there is some storage, and then this comparing of tariff of solar and wind and everything gone away, because what ultimately we need is a firm renewable power which can be supplied to the final consumer and which is acceptable to the DISCOMs and the transmission companies. So with FDRE coming up, the entire thing has changed. We said that we will do a bidding of 50 gigawatt, out of which minimum 10 will be wind. And what finally happened is that we did the bidding of 50 gigawatt and the wind came out more than 13 gigawatt. And more FDRE coming up, more and more wind will increase, and that will create more and more market. With that, as I said in the morning, the challenges will come, the opportunities will come, the more players will enter into the market. But yes, it is wind which will be there and which will remain there. The only thing is that we have to harness it, and we have to harness it to the maximum. With this, I don't think so I can speak more about Tulsi Bhai, because he's too big a man to talk a lot about him. But yes, what he has done for the wind industry, I think he deserves a big round of applause. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. So, ladies and gentlemen, all our 3 speakers, inspired by the path showed by Shri Tulsi Tanti, shared with us their insights on the way forward for the industry. We thank them, express our gratitude to them, and I would like to request Shri S.V. Mulli to please join us here, the EC member IWTMA, to present these special mementos thanking our speakers. Thanking Mr. Lalit Bohra. Thanking Mr. J.P. Chalasani. Thank you, sir. And our expression of thanks to Mr. Stewart Mullin.